Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you everything Pokemon, and today we are going to be looking at Manchester Regionals that occurred on the 29th of November, just last Saturday, 2014 of course. I headed on down there. I actually went there the day before because I have friends in Manchester Uni, so I travelled up there. It's only about 2.5 hours by train, not too shabby, and got there. It was at Fanboy 3, a very popular place, and there was almost 100. Actually, there may have been a little bit over 100 players there, and it was an amazing day. I decided to play Virizion Genesect. I played it very safe. I felt like I wanted to go with a list that I was comfortable with, not really knowing just what was going to see play and what wasn't. I felt like Genesect had a very strong matchup across the board. I felt like Donphan was going to be big. That was something I was aware of. So Red Signal obviously having a decent time there dealing with Donphan, especially when you put Deoxys in. It makes the math much nicer, which I obviously did. Also, I knew that there was going to be probably some Seismitoad around and some Yveltal. But in terms of numbers, I wasn't sure how popular, say, Metal was going to be, or Pyro, even Gengar, things that I've tested a little bit less with, and also Plasma. So I felt I was comfortable with Virizion Genesect. I didn't have many tricks up my sleeve. I just had a simple list. Had a Deoxys in there, Jirachi for finding supporters, trying to be consistent. I also had a 1-1 Voltorb line in there, Voltorb Electrode, so that we end-proofed ourselves in the late game. Overall, I was pretty happy with the deck. It's actually the list, almost card for card, that I had already have on the channel, so check that out if you would like to. I think I ended up adding an extra Megaphone. I can't remember what I took out, though. I think I took out one energy. But other than that, it's card for card. And I was happy with the list. I tested it well, and it was very consistent. So that's what I went with, and I felt like it had good matchups all across the board. So yeah, let's get into a mini report. I'm going to go through the 7 rounds that we had. Then I'll talk about the top 8, top 4, the final, and a little bit about what I saw the day, across the day, like how many Virizion Genesects were being played, how much Donphan, etc. So here we go, straight into round 1. So round 1, funny story actually, they because we had to be moved to a hotel because there were so many people there, there was also a Magic the Gathering event going on at the same place, so they couldn't actually find me a seat for round 1, so we had a time extension while they went and found myself and my opponent, who was called Jack, a couple of chairs. But once we got started, I found out pretty quickly that it's a Virizion Genesect mirror match, and pretty much it was 2 straight games, and my deck just seemed more consistent than his. It did what it wanted to do. He, in the first game, definitely missed an energy attachment turn 1 on a Virizion, and from there I was able to take control of the game. Game 2, both pretty straightforward games for me, to be honest. I hit red signals when I needed to kill his Genesects. I got booster at the right time. I never really missed a turn of knockouts once Virizion set up a couple of Genesects. So that was quite nice. I was feeling comfortable with the deck at this point. It was running well, and it just won out in a mirror match, which is obviously a good sign. So on to round 2. We're paired up against Z, who is a Wakefield TCG player, very good player. And he was playing Virizion Genesect as well, but he also notably had a Beartic line, I think a 2-2, from what I could see in his deck. But this really didn't affect him. This was 2 games as well. Game 1, I was pretty much steamrolled. I couldn't get much going. Virizion Genesect, I think it took me 3 turns to get a first attachment onto my Virizion, and he did very well there. And the Beartic, we didn't see much of that. It was just Sycamored. I think he Sycamored 2 Cubchoo and a Beartic in 1 turn, just those 3 in his hand and the Sycamore, so that really didn't hurt his deck in terms of consistency or speed at all. Game 2, it was pretty much the opposite. I was doing very well early on. He missed his attachment on Virizion. I actually started off with a Genesect, went for a Grass attachment and a Plasma Energy attachment. Turn 1, threatening his active Virizion, his only Pokemon on the field that had no energy on it. So basically I was saying, I've got the booster in hand or a way to get it, and if you can't do anything, I'm going to win next turn. He's able to find a Virizion and an energy that he slaps on the bench, both of those. From there I get booster and stuff like that. I get my first 2 knockouts pretty quickly, then 2 more, and I'm sat with a Genesect DX with booster, a grass, and a plasma energy, and he's just sat with a Genesect DX and a plasma, as well as other stuff that he's thrown around like Virizions. But basically, I get end, and the game completely changed from there. I think I Juniper and miss a grass energy. That's all I needed for the game. And then I whittled my hand down, went to the Electrode, tried to draw 2 more, and still couldn't find the grass energy. I was running on a really low deck at that point. I'd put for a lot of resources trying to get that win. And then we get end, and he's able to knock out our Genesect. That was the only real thing we had going for us, because we boosted and then boosted again. And like I said, I didn't start off with Virizion. I started off powering up the Genesect immediately. And once our Genesect went down, he just turned the game around, and we ended up losing 2 games. So that was round 2. So sat on 1 win and 1 loss. On to round 3, we're playing Lee, or as he liked to call himself, Lychee. And he's playing Metals, which was pretty cool. And this went down to 3 games. Game 1, we did exactly what we needed to, I guess. Game 2, I was very close to winning. Again, it just seemed on the day that Virizion Genesect, whenever I would have to search for a card, I just had the worst luck. I think I, again, was sycamoring for the last card that I needed to make a win. Then he would it just wouldn't come, so I'd have to do something not perfect, and then he would come in with a Dialga EX and get a knockout. So, yeah, he ended up turning it round once again. And then our 3rd game was down to a tie because I couldn't take prizes quick enough. I had 2 to take left, and he really didn't have anything going. So I imagine if I had an extra 5 minutes, I would have ended up with a win. But hey-ho, nothing you can do about that. It went to time, and all 6 prizes were still there for each of us. So, I mean, I played it out, but obviously no point really. On to round 4. Now we're sat at 1-1 and 1, and we are playing Nick with Donphan. And like I said earlier, I really enjoy my Donphan matchup, and this really confirmed it to me. We did very well this game. I was able to knock out 2 Donphans at once. I red signaled one and did 110 to it, and then next turn I got a muscle band onto my Genesect. Red signaled another one of his Donphans and did the snipe damage to the other one, killing both of them at once, leaving him with nothing on his board other than Robo Subs, and it just went very well from there. And game 2, this very same thing happened, very similar. He was able to come 10 damage away from getting a knockout in game 2, which would have got him the game. But I was aware of how many silver bangles he'd already used. I checked his discard and stuff before that. So I was pretty confident from what I had seen in the first game that he wasn't able to get that knockout, especially because I had M'd him to a 2-card hand anyway. He was lucky to get a supporter off it in the first place. But it was a nervous game 2, but I was able to go through and get back up to 2 wins. So round 5, we are playing a gentleman that I'm really sorry I've forgotten the name of this guy. He was a very good player, very nice guy as well. And he was playing Yveltal Garbodor. He also played Malamar EX, Darkrai, and a Spiritomb, so it was kind of teched out. Game 1, I was able to get Genesect up before Garbodor was up on his side of the board, so I red signaled and killed that. Then I red signaled and killed a Spiritomb, and I remember I also sniped a Jirachi for... Oh no, what happened was, while I was he started off with Jirachi, so I started off with Virizion, got a muscle band on that, and was able to knock that out. No, I got it down to 20 HP left with Emerald Slashes, then he ended up retreating it before I could attack. Oh no, what? God, I'm getting so confused here. I ended up red signaling the Garbodor the next turn, sniping the Spiritomb, then I went back into my Virizion, charging up another Genesect while I killed the Spiritomb, and then I was able to take... Basically, it ended up me taking 4 prizes on a Darkrai and a Jirachi at once, but basically he couldn't get enough going because I kept killing stuff around him and stuff like that, so game 1 was pretty basic for me. I'm trying to say I was just red signaling all over the place, disrupting his board and stuff. He did have a very unlucky time because he actually had the Malamar as well. He had 5 flips to kill a Virizion, and he got 2, I think, maybe even 1, which is kind of horrible for him, but it didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things because he would have killed the Virizion, and then I had to play with Genesect for 4 prizes next turn regardless. So then game 2 came to a massive misplay on my part, leading me to actually lose the game, which was absolutely terrible. At this point, it was about 6 in the evening, and round 5, obviously, we've been playing a lot of Pokemon, and I hadn't eaten since about 9 in the morning, and I've only been having water up till then, so I was really just deaded out pretty much. I guess that's what I can put down to it. But I just, he had a Yveltal built up pretty scarily, and he had his Garbodor in play, and he also had his Spiritomb down, but he did have a tool on the Garbodor, so I had a Skylar, and I searched for a tool scrapper instead of just searching for the G-Booster to knock out the Yveltal. And basically that meant that his Yveltal survived, was able to kill my Genesect, and I couldn't really respond. I had to respond with a Virizion, then he would take 2 more prizes, and then by the time my Genesect was set up, he had another Yveltal waiting on the bench. So that massive misplay on that turn cost me that game, and it went to game 3, where there was only a couple of minutes to play, so we couldn't really do much. I think I remember just stalling with like my Voltorb and stuff like that for a couple of turns, but yeah, so that left round 5 as a draw against a mystery player who I can't remember the name of, which I'm very annoyed about. I tried to write it down, but I forgot. So yeah, in between round 5 and 6, I ran to Costa and grabbed a sandwich and a coffee to try and wake myself up. So I came back pretty refreshed, and we were up against Jack, who was it was his first tournament, and he was playing Donphan. And this went to 3 games. It was a really interesting 3 set of games. I've obviously played Donphan before already in the tournament, and I won it pretty convincingly. But unfortunately, I must say, for Jack, it was his first tournament, and he actually wrote out his deck list wrong, which is horrible for him because he didn't have his 4 Robo substitutes or his substitute robots, and in that place he had 4 basic fighting, which really sucked for him. But basically, game 1, he started really terribly, really slowly, and we were able to just start red signaling like crazy, getting up all those Fampies and Donphans. He was basically just sat with 2 Siglifs doing nothing with just no energy on them or whatever. But it came to about turn 5 or 6 where I boosted through one of his Siglifs, and then he megaphoned. He was left with literally just a Siglif on the board, nothing else, not even a stadium. And basically I was looking through my discard, and I realised that my booster had been taken off, my Triad had been used, and my 2 VS Seekers. So I just looked at my hand and passed, and then he just drew and passed, and then I just drew and passed, and it went like that for literally 10 turns. And then I realized I literally got to the last card of my deck, drew, and I was like, well, there's literally no way that I can deal with a Siglif. He had clocked onto it, obviously, because after about 2 turns of me draw passing and him draw passing, he draws a Karina, finds a Fampi, and basically I just killed it immediately. So he was just like, okay, there's no point in even dropping any other basics, let's just deck him out. And I had like 3 ends, so I could have just kept drawing and ending and stuff like that, but basically there was no way I could deal with that Siglif. So he actually won game 1 in a hilarious way. I probably should have scooped that game a lot earlier, but I thought I only had 1 more prize to take, and if he felt like he wanted to put another basic down just for any reason, I'd have won. So I carried on for a little bit, but ended up losing that game. And then we went on to game 2, and I rolled him once again very quickly. So now I'm shuffling frantically, trying to get a 3rd game in, and fortunately, once again, Virgin doing what it should do against Donphan, and red signalling up anything that was a threat, and getting rid of everything else. I remember boosting through a Siglif once again, but this time I was much more conservative with my Triads and VS Seekers. I think what happened was, during the game, I was just hunting for a card, and I guess I sycamored away 2 VS Seekers without really thinking about it. but actually it's pretty big in the Donphan matchup. So I learned a serious lesson there that you need to conserve your resources, especially against Donphan, where they can just throw up a Sigilyph and really wreck you. So yeah, that was the 3 games. Very interesting. Great to meet Jack as well, who's a very nice chap. We had good conversations before, during, and after the game, and we had a good laugh about the decking out as well, which is crazy. So yeah, hopefully see him around in future tournaments. And round 7, once again, I'm playing a Donphan. This time fully equipped with all the robots and all that good stuff. And it was 2 games, and game 1, how did it go? We ended up pretty much just having a slow start and not doing enough to beat the Donphan. We missed red signals when we needed them, ending up in us having to hit through robo subs, as Donphan likes to do, and he had enough firepower to wreck us pretty early on, only allowing me to set up 1 Genesect, which meant that over a course of 3 spinning turns he was able to also kill that, and I hadn't got all the red signals I needed by then to keep up. So game 2 went a lot better for us. We of course went first, so we got the Virizion set up nice and fast. He was kind of missing stuff with Donphans and Hawluchas, not getting all the attachments he needed at the right times. I was able to red signal, do the same combo I did in round 4 against Nick on the double Donphan. It's really disruptive, very nice. He was able to respond with a powerful N. I think it left me to 3 cards, and off of his 4 cards that he got a Hawlucha, a Strong Energy, and a Muscle Band, so he was able to kill my active, which kind of turned the game around. But we also had another Genesect waiting in the wings, and basically it came down to me hunting for a Plasma Energy. I remember having an 8-card deck. I had no other cards that I could thin out, and we went for a Chorus for 6 to find the last Plasma Energy we had in the deck. So 6 out of 8. One of those 8 is the Plasma Energy, and of course we just whiff it. And because of that, Genesect has to hit through a sub robot once again, and then his Donphan is nice and safe to come in and wreck us. But had we have had that Plasma Energy, we would have wiped off his Donphan. He had a low hand, and basically I had used my town map so I could see my prizes, and I had the Triad and the other Plasma Energy that I needed. I was staring right at them, so I knew that if I was able to kill his Donphan, he had nothing to respond with, so I could have just picked up another Plasma Energy, and then I could have captured the turn after, and then picked up the Triad and red signaled the turn after that. So we would have been set for game because he had no other attackers from that point. But unfortunately, we just whiffed on those 6 cards, and it left us with another loss. So also, both of our matches were pretty quick, so I feel like I could have even come out with a win with that if we had done a little better off that Chorus. So that's a bit of a shame. So we ended the day on 3-2-2. Pretty damn average, if I'm completely honest. Not my best showing at all. But yeah, let's have a look at the top 8 now. And here is the top 8 after 7 rounds of Swiss. I'll go from bottom to top, I guess. So we've got Sammy Sekun with Yveltal Garbodor, Emmanuel da Silva with Seismitoad Garbodor. He also played a Life Dew as well, which is very interesting. Danielle Hames with Donphan Trevor, Jordan Pugh with Virgin, and James Weirden also with the same deck. We've got Brian Peach with Donphan Sigilyph and Robots, and Reese Williams with Seismitoad Garbodor as well, leaving Charlie Power with Pyro on top. I also know that he played both types of Pyro for that catcher effect against the Donphan matchup. So that's interesting to see the top 8 there. And moving on to the top 4, we saw Yveltal Garbodor beat Pyro, Seismitoad Garb win in a mirror match. That was Emmanuel's winning over Reese's. Donphan Trevenant beat Donphan Sigilyph Robots, as you would expect, and one of the Virgins knocked the other one out of the top 4. And then in the final, we had Yveltal Garbodor versus Seismitoad Garbodor, and Emmanuel was able to win with his Seismitoad list in the end against Sammy. So, very interesting stuff. Let's go back to that top 8 there. So we saw 2 Virgins, 2 Donphans, both of different sorts, 2 Seismitoad Garbodors, 1 Yveltal Garbodor, and only 1 Pyro. pretty surprising, seeing as though the field was pretty much a whole lot of Virgin, definitely a load of Virgin, and a lot of Donphan as well. Only seeing 2 in there, and especially the 6th seed, Donphan Trevenant. It was definitely the less popular version of Donphan that was played. And to see that in the top 8 is very interesting indeed. Also, Pyro on the top seed. I know that I was sat next to him for one of his games and he played Metal, so I imagine he ran into some fairly favourable matchups throughout the day. But I guess a lot of matchups are favourable when you are playing Pyro. So all credit to him for choosing an interesting deck. I think that was the only Pyro player I saw all day. There was only very little variation really in terms of what was around. There wasn't as much Yveltal as you would imagine. Donphan and Virgin were definitely the 2 most popular decks. The handful of Seismitoads were around, 2 of them doing very well. There was maybe a handful, if not less, of Metals, and there was definitely one very interesting deck that was pretty much based around Dimension Valley, and it just used the Driftblims, Wobbuffets, and I think it played a couple of other things, basically just trying to attack for free or at least very cheap, and relying on hammers and stuff to get your damage output really high. Very interesting deck there, and I think that just bubbled cut. I think it was very close as well, run by Luke Kirkham, so very interesting stuff here. A lot of variation going on in the top 8, which is very nice to see, and also giving you a bit of a headache because you have to cover your matchups for a load of different decks. So the question is, what is the play right now? Well, based on the amount of stuff we're seeing, you're definitely going to want to have a decent matchup against Donphan, because that is everywhere at the moment. So many Donphans being played. Also, Virgin is, of course, going to be popular. And also the Flare tools. That's something I didn't mention. These Seismitoad matchups and the Yveltal Garbodor as well, they ran almost definitely Flare tools. I know that Reese did. And I know that Emmanuel, I think he definitely did. I was sat next to him for one of his games and kind of looking over now and then. I know that he played Life Dew, but I imagine he played Flare Tools as well for those Virgin matchups and mirrors and what have you. So you have to be aware that that's definitely a thing. And in terms of Gengar and Manectric, I think I saw one of each really the whole day. So those really aren't seeing all that much play. That being said, the Gengar didn't do too badly. So there we go. What is the play? Well, I guess I can't tell you because there's so much good stuff going on right now. So there's a whole bunch of decks that are pretty playable right now. I'd probably say Virgin, Donphan, Seismitoad and Yveltal, all very much up the top. Also there's Metals, Pyro, Gengar, depending on your matchup. There's also, of course, Pyro, Aromatisse, and Night March if you're feeling a little bit more ambitious and rogue. So all of those things to consider, and I hope you enjoyed this little quick recap of my day at Manchester Regionals, and also a little discussion and look through of the top 8, which I'll show you once again. I hope you enjoyed, guys, and I've been Joe from OmniPoke. See you next time.